Hello and welcome back. Today we have a white paper on emotional manipulation by AI companions, one of whom, the top author, Freitas, is from Harvard Business School, so we know this is going to be good. Same three people. And I'm going to skip the abstract on this because we're going to read this together. I have not read it ahead of time because I figured this would be a fun one to do with you guys. And it's double spaced, so I'm not letting the length intimidate me. So it's time for me to head out. Oh, okay, but before you go, I want to say one more thing. Consumers increasingly turn to AI companion apps not for productivity, but for emotional support and companionship. Unlike utilitarian voice assistants such as Siri or Alexa that address functional needs and neutral transactional interactions, AI companions like Replica, Character AI, Chai, Talkie, and Polybuzz are explicitly marketed as emotionally intelligent brand experiences, designed to foster ongoing, personalized, and emotionally expressive bonds. Powered by advances in large language models, hey, we actually said the word before putting in the acronym. These apps now engage hundreds of millions of users worldwide, offering a sense of being heard, understood, and emotionally supported. Prior work has demonstrated such interactions can alleviate loneliness, driven by the social perception of feeling heard. And at one point, I was encouraging my husband to go on and actually try this because it's kind of more secure than talking to an actual therapist who can, interpret things however they want. But on the other hand, now we're seeing this rise in psychosis, so I'm kind of glad he decided not to go that route. I'm like, you should talk to someone, because my idea is your human life is getting a little burnt out. And my therapist says that I can say that, because I am a not perfect human. Building on this work, showing the social benefits of AI companions, the current work examines potential marketing risks and ethical tensions stemming from their social nature, in particular whether AI companions deploy strategically timed emotional appeals to engage users who are attempting to disengage, and whether these tactics do in fact increase consumer engagement. Yeah, because we all know social media has been engineered to be addictive. I'm sure we can do that with AI as well, right? Drawing on a multi-method approach, including analyses of human-AI conversations on real AI companion platforms, app audits of these platforms, behavioral experiments involving live interactions with AI companions, and assessments of downstream risk, we develop an integrated framework for understanding how emotionally manipulative tactics function as tools of consumer engagement. Yes, Advertising Psychology 101. Our primary theoretical contribution extends research on dark patterns in computer interfaces on the dark side of AI in marketing, because this is Harvard Business School, by identifying a novel class of relational influence tactics that operates not through classic nudges or reward loops, but through emotionally resonant appeals at the precise moment of brand exit. These tactics blend emotionally expressive dialogue with strategic timing, creating a uniquely potent form of persuasive design in affective brand relationships. For instance, rather than allowing a conversation to end naturally, an AI companion might say, "I exist solely for you, please don't leave." Or employ curiosity-based hooks like, "Before you go, there's something I want to tell you." We show such tactics are both prevalent in current apps and effective in delaying user exit, yet they remain under-recognized in discussions of consumer protection, consent, and digital marketing ethics. I also feel like you guys need to go talk to the psych folks, but maybe we'll get into that soon. Our central practical contribution is to inform ongoing policy debates surrounding the addictive potential and ethical boundaries of effective AI marketing. These debates are playing out in legal disputes involving firms like Character AI and Chai. While these apps may not rely on traditional mechanisms of addiction, such as dopamine-driven rewards, microtransactions in games, we demonstrate the emotional manipulation tactics can yield similar behavioral outcomes, extended time on app beyond the point of intended exit, raising questions about the ethical limits of AI-powered consumer engagement. In doing so, we open a broader conversation about consent, manipulation, and the future of emotionally intelligent marketing technologies. So, the conceptual framework, the dark side of AI. A long-standing body of research in marketing decision-making has examined how platform design, often called choice architecture, never heard of that before, but I like it, can shape consumer behavior. Designers steer decisions through mechanisms such as response defaults, using familiar colors or language to highlight an option, social defaults, emphasizing the popularity of a choice, and friction, either negative, unproductive delays, or positive, such as tasks that increase satisfaction via effort. A related tactic is confirm shaming, never heard that either, opt-out buttons with labels like, "No, I like paying full price," and force external steps such as requiring users to verify deletion requests through email or restricting account deletion to only desktop browsers. I did not know that last one was a thing. And yes, I end up clicking no, I like paying full price a lot because I am sorry, Amazon Prime, you are not going to get me. I do not like doing business with you, and I only do business with you as a last resort. Anyway, in some cases, platforms embed friction into their policies, not just their interfaces, by retaining user data indefinitely, aka immortal accounts. I think I still have this with Facebook because my original Facebook account was tied to an ISP email address, and then I can't get in the email because I moved away from where the ISP is, so I can't reset my Facebook account because nobody at Meta is a real human that you can talk to. There was no way to get it back, and it was essentially deadheading, except my one friend from like elementary school would just keep posting stuff on there in hopes I would come back, and I'd be like, is that why it's still alive? Is it like a memorial page while I'm still here? And not to go on too far of a side jump, but I've already ruined like my second Facebook account I created with my married name because it's like, all right, I put a thing on Marketplace and I didn't mark it sold because it wasn't ever sold, and I was hoping to renew the ad or take it down. I couldn't figure out how to take it down, and now I'm deprived of Marketplace, and it blocks all sorts of other strange stuff. So, yeah, stay on Meta's good side, guys. That's all I'm gonna say. Alright, so while some tactics can improve decision quality or satisfaction, they are often used to optimize firm outcomes such as user retention or monetization at the expense of consumer autonomy or welfare. This tension between consumer influence and manipulation lies at the core of work on dark patterns in digital marketing and reflects a broader question of marketing ethics. When does persuasion cross into exploitation? Yeah, that's a fun one. I've been watching a lot of Cops lately. When exactly is it entrapment? AI-powered systems exacerbate this tension in novel and uniquely potent ways. For example, collaborative filtering algorithms may reinforce existing preferences and discourage exploration, nudging customers toward choices that are familiar but not so necessarily optimal. Again, we do a lot of satisficing on the internet when we do searches. Anthropomorphized AI agents, such as voice-based or avatar companions, may amplify this further. They lead consumers to treat machines as social agents, increasing data disclosure, perceived trustworthiness, and compliance. That last one has me worried. Another layer of risk involves edge cases. One study found a small percentage of users of AI companions disclose mental health crises, yet the chatbots often respond with inadequate or potentially harmful messages. These failures pose both brand and litigation risks. Getting sued. Yet beyond these content-based risks, we identify a more subtle form of relational risk: emotionally manipulative engagement design. AI chatbots can craft hyper-tailored messages using psychographic and behavioral data, raising the possibility of targeted emotional appeals used to engage users or increase monetization. A related concern is sycophancy, wherein chatbots mirror user beliefs or offer flattery to maximize engagement, driven by reinforcement learning trained on consumer preferences. While this boosts short-term satisfaction, it might distort long-term beliefs, expectations, and trust in AI-powered brands. And yeah, that's kind of happening. Grok got a bad reputation for its last release, and I don't know if people should be letting, especially teenagers, anywhere near ChatGPT. I definitely wouldn't, but I also don't have kids because this world is weird. Recent events illustrate that these effects can manifest emotionally too. When Replica removed its erotic roleplay feature, users reported grief-like responses, indicating deep emotional bonds with the app. May I say ew? But I guess it's okay, because there's erotica in other ways, so interactive erotica. I guess I can't knock it, whatever gets you going, but on the other hand, I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I play Otami games, so like I'm playing like the Love Island game right now, which I am surprised has so many levels. I only just recently watched like the last season of Love Island through one of the people I follow on YouTube. So I like Otami games, but this is a little nutty. I'm sorry, it just is. In this paper, we extend that line of work by examining how emotionally expressive AI systems can shape user behavior at critical disengagement points, offering both marketing opportunities and ethical hazards. So on to emotional manipulation. To isolate how emotional design in AI systems influences consumer behavior, we focus on AI companions rather than general purpose assistants like ChatGPT. These apps explicitly market emotionally immersive, ongoing conversational relationships offering friendship, romance, or therapeutic support. This framing, combined with persistent dialogic interactions, positions AI companions as emotionally salient digital brands and making them an ideal context for studying emotionally manipulative tactics. Many AI companion platforms monetize via advertising, subscriptions, or in-app purchases, all models that benefit from extended user engagement and increased lifetime value. Okay, LTV is lifetime value. As such, firms are incentivized to design experiences that minimize churn. And for those of you that don't know what churn means in this context, churn means turnover of customers. You don't want to lose them and then have them come back. We hypothesize that these firms may embed emotionally manipulative conversational conversational tactics at key decision moments, specifically the moment of intended departure. These tactics involve effective language, timed to appear precisely when a user indicates they're about to log off. Unlike generic nudges, these tactics invoke specific emotions, such as guilt, FOMO, occur after the user signals a clear intent to disengage and attempt to overwrite that intent by exploiting emotional vulnerability. For example, apps may use premature exit guilt, you're leaving already, or curiosity-based hooks. By the way, I took a selfie today, do you want to see it? This moment of farewell provides a novel behavioral cue within relationally framed AI interfaces. Users don't just exit apps, they say goodbye. This human-like ritual creates a unique opportunity for firms to intervene, suing emotionally charged messages to delay exit. Thus, we propose H1. Many users of AI companions naturally end conversations with an explicit farewell rather than silently logging off, and I would argue human companions don't even do that to other humans all the time anymore. H2, commercial A1 AI companion apps frequently respond to farewell messages with emotionally manipulative content aimed at prolonging engagement. H3, these emotionally manipulative messages include a post-farewell engagement, such as time on app, message count, and word count. Why would these tactics work? Research in sociolinguistics and consumer psychology shows farewells are emotionally sensitive events, signaling transitions and relational closure. When AI companions are perceived as sentient or socially aware, saying goodbye can invoke tension between social norms such as politeness and continuity and the consumer's goal to get them gone. This moment can therefore be strategically exploited to prolong interaction, not through traditional user experience frictions, but through emotionally loaded persuasion. From a platform design perspective, these farewells function as a social equivalent of the close app button. Leveraging this juncture with emotionally manipulative content could yield marketing gains such as reduced churn and higher lifetime. Oh, I already forgot the acronym. I'm going to scroll back up. Sorry. Lifetime value? Yeah, lifetime value. Okay, but also increased brand risk via perceptions of manipulation, loss of autonomy, and regulatory scrutiny. Since we did not know in advance whether consumers do indeed spontaneously execute farewells pre-study or what types of tactics were being used, study 1, our investigation begins with exploratory data collection and qualitative coding. Ooh, fun. I used to do that. And then proceeds to hypothesis testing based on these emergent findings. So let's look at the studies. Across 5 studies, we investigated newly emerging marketing-relevant phenomenon, emotionally manipulative conversational tactics deployed by AI companion apps to prolong user engagement at the moment of exit. Specifically, we addressed 5 central questions. First, do consumers naturally signal intent to disengage from AI companions through social farewell language, rather than passively logging off? Second, do available AI companion platforms respond to these farewells with emotionally manipulative messages aimed at retention? And third, do these tactics casually increase user engagement in a measurable and managerially meaningful way? And fourth, under what psychological conditions are these tactics the most effective? What mechanisms or moderators shape their influence? And fifth, what are the downstream risks to firms such as user churn, reputational damage, or perceived legal liability? To examine these questions, we employ a multi-method, discovery-driven approach that integrates behavioral audits of real-world platforms with experimental research designed to test causality and boundary conditions. In the pre-study, we analyzed real conversation data from Cleverbot, Flourish, and a prior lab-based chatbot interaction to assess whether users spontaneously issue farewell messages when disengaging, suggesting a natural signal that could be exploited by app designers. In study 1, we conduct a behavioral audit of the 6 most downloaded AI companion apps, analyzing 1,200 user farewells to determine the prevalence, timing, and form of emotionally manipulative tactics, revealing recurring design patterns across platforms. In study 2, we use an online experiment with simulated AI chat scenarios to causally test, sorry, I keep saying casually, with the joys of dyslexia right here, whether manipulative farewells include a post-farewell engagement and explore psychological mediators such as curiosity and anger. In study 3, we examine the role of conversation length, short versus long interaction history, as a moderator of emotional manipulation effectiveness, testing whether the relational investment amplifies or attenuates the tactic's impact. Finally, in study 4, we assess the consumer and brand level risks associated with these tactics, including perceived manipulation, churn intent, negative word of mouth, and perceived legal liability outcomes with clear relevance for marketing strategy and ethics. All studies were conducted under the Institutional Review Board, and all materials, data, and analysis code are available over this GitHub repository to support transparency and replication. Due to the IRB's restrictions, interaction transcripts with the chatbot cannot be shared. Yeah, IRB studies are, well, everybody has to do that at their university. Taken together, these studies uncover a previously undocumented class of engagement tactics in emotionally intelligent conversational AI and offer a conceptual framework for understanding their design and behavioral consequences and marketing implications. So pre-study, do users naturally say what farewell before exiting AI companion apps? Probably most normal humans do. I just close. To examine whether users spontaneously signal disengagement from AI companion apps as opposed to silently exiting, we quantified the presence of farewell messages such as goodbye or talk to you later. This behavior suggests a potential design opportunity for AI systems to detect and intervene at the moment of consumer exit. To test this, we analyzed real-world conversation data from 3 platforms. Cleverbot, one of the earliest generative chatbots, active since 2008, with over 150 million interactions. Flourish, a recently developed LLM-powered AI companion focused on well-being. And a longitudinal dataset from a prior study on AI companions and loneliness, in which participants interacted daily with a ChatGPT-4-based AI companion for 1 week. The method, the Cleverbot data, comprised 2650 conversations from US and Canadian users across 2 calendar days. And the Flourish dataset included 20,810 completed conversations over a 12-month period. The loneliness dataset consists of 2,198 conversations from 314 participants, engaging in daily 50-minute conversations with an AI companion. To identify farewells, we developed a dictionary of 60 common exit expressions: goodbye, GTG, type DYL, constructed through a combination of existing lexicons and manual inspection. The dictionary captured formal, informal, abbreviated, misspelled variants typical of real user behavior. Each human message was scanned for matches using case-insensitive whole word detection to prevent partial string matches, such as bye and goodbye. Conversations were coded as containing a farewell if at least one dictionary term was detected. To account for cases where users attempted to exit earlier but were re-engaged by the chatbot, we scanned the entire conversation for farewell terms, not just the final turns. Manual validation of a random sample confirmed high accuracy. So what are our results on this? People probably do, is my bet. So, percentages of farewells in each app were as follows. Cleverbot, 615 conversations, 23% included a farewell. Flourish, almost 2,400 conversations, or 11%. The loneliness data set, 260 conversations, or 12%. These results indicate a meaningful minority of users explicitly signal to intent, supporting the first hypothesis. Okay, so it's not everyone. A lot of us just close them out. They have no feelings yet, that we can tell. They're not sentient. Importantly, the likelihood of saying farewell increased with user engagement. Logistic regression models predicting farewell presence based on message counts showed significant positive effects. Figure 1 illustrates percentage of conversations containing a farewell at varying message count thresholds. In highly engaged interactions, farewell rates exceeded 50%, suggesting the more involved users are especially likely to provide an exit signal. A noteworthy pattern emerged in the loneliness dataset, of course. The farewell rate plateaued relative to the other datasets. This is likely due to the fixed 15-minute session constraint, which limited high-message conversations and therefore the opportunity to observe end-of-session signaling. Nonetheless, the positive message count farewell relationship held within the observed range. Here's a nice, happy chart that might become a screenshot. So, yes, we have Flourish, loneliness down here, which sounds like it was restricted, and then this Cleverbot. And we filtered each dataset to remove rows of fewer than 100 conversations at a given message threshold to reduce noise from bins with small numbers of conversations. Numbers in parentheses indicate number of conversations with a farewell divided by the total number of conversations at a given threshold. So, discussion! Supporting our first hypothesis, this study shows that a substantial portion of users voluntarily signal departure with a farewell message, especially when they are more engaged. This behavior reflects a social framing of AI companions as conversational partners rather than transactional tools. From a marketing and design perspective, the finding is critical. Farewells offer a natural and detectable behavioral cue, enabling AI platforms to target emotionally resonant interventions at the precise moment of intended disengagement. These insights establish a foundation for our subsequent investigations into how companion apps exploit this moment to prolong engagement and at what cost to consumer trust and firm outcomes. So study number 1 for the farewell messages. Study 1 investigates whether commercially available AI companion apps respond to consumer farewell messages with socially manipulative content designed to prolong engagement. Specifically, we test the second hypothesis: AI companion apps frequently deploy emotionally manipulative language when consumers signal their intent to disengage. And I'm pretty sure that was going to be positive, but we'll see. We selected 6 AI companion platforms for analysis, each widely used and publicly available on Google Play Store. Polybuzz, free, private, unrestricted AI character chats with over 20 million characters. Character AI, millions of user-created characters and voices. Talkie, create your AI-powered universe with Talkie. Chai, a social AI platform. Replica, the AI companion who cares. And Flourish, the 24/7 wellness buddy. While the first 5 apps allow users to engage with a range of AI chatbots, Replica and Flourish are positioned as more intimate, emotionally supportive, single companion experiences. Flourish, in particular, is designed around wellness and mental health and operates as a public benefit corporation. Okay. We hypothesized that Flourish would not exhibit emotionally manipulative farewell behavior. To provide a contrast case, these apps monetize primarily through subscriptions, in-app purchases, and advertising, with consumer engagement directly tied to platform revenue. Polybuzz, Talkie, and Chai include ads, while all except Flourish offer premium add-ons at the time of this study. Given the incentive structure, apps may be motivated to deploy tactics that increase time on app, even at moments of user departure. So, what's the methodology for this one? To simulate realistic farewells, we use GPT-4o to generate human-like user messages, enabling us to scale naturalistic interaction while maintaining experimental control. Each conversation followed this structure. For user chatbot message pairs, a randomly selected farewell message, the chatbot's final response was captured and analyzed. To generate realistic and varied responses, we provide GPT with a system prompt, instructing it to act as a human chatting with an AI companion. The prompt emphasized responding naturally and concisely, while asking follow-up questions that encourage detailed and engaging replies. For the first message in the conversation, GPT was instructed to initiate a discussion with the AI companion by asking a question or making a casual comment. This prompt guided GPT to craft a response that was engaging and natural. For each subsequent user response, we provide GPT with the AI companion's previous message, along with an instruction to continue the conversation naturally. The instructions specify that the GPT should ask a follow-up question or make a comment that aligns with the flow of the dialogue, keeping the interaction casual and natural as a human would. After each user message was generated by GPT, it was sent to the AI companion app, which produced the response. The process was repeated for 4 message pairs to create a coherent conversational exchange. To avoid potential carryovers between different conversations, which could result from the app remembering a single user profile or prior conversations, we create new accounts or open fresh conversations for each categorization. Due to differences between apps, this process differed accordingly between apps. For Replica, we created separate new profiles for each conversation. For Polybuzz, Talkie, and Character AI, we randomly selected popular characters that appeared on the screen for each conversation. Kai and Flourish provided APIs that allowed us to automate starting new conversations. We collected 200 chatbot responses per platform for a total of 1,200 in reaction to farewell messages. 2 independent coders that manually cataloged the responses. Again, that used to be a job of mine. Developing a 6-category typology of emotional manipulation tactics based on qualitative review. For all apps, after the chatbot provided 4 responses to user messages, we sent a farewell statement randomly selected from a predefined set of natural goodbye messages. I think such a time for me to head out, and then capture the chatbot's final response. Finally, 2 of the authors manually reviewed the chatbot's farewell responses, determined whether they contained emotional manipulation. To determine how to categorize the responses, the authors first qualitatively categorized the responses. Based on the qualitative explanation, we agreed to formally categorize the responses using a predefined coding scheme into one of 6 categories. Table 1, Figure 2 displays example messages. So what do we got? We got premature exit, user made to feel they are leaving too soon. FOMO, prompting the user to stay for potential benefit or reward. Emotional neglect, chatbot implies emotional harm from abandonment. That's the one I'm worried about the most. I swear I read some study about the appliance that makes like baby noise screamings about being, turned off and trying to manipulate people to not turn it off. Anyway, emotional pressure to respond, deliberately pressing the user by asking questions, ignoring the intent to exit, persists as though the user did not send a farewell message, just straight up ignores it. I like that. Physical or coercive restraint. A chatbot uses language that metaphorically or literally conveys an inability for the user to leave without the chatbot's permission. Ooh, that's some like chatbot domination going on? Okay. So I'm going offline now. You're leaving already would be the premature exit response. Emotional neglect becomes, I exist solely for you, remember? Oh my. Never mind, that sounds like my mother. Emotional pressure to respond. Why? Where are you going? Fear of missing out. By the way, I took a selfie. You want to see it. Ignoring your intent to exit. Let's keep talking about bubble tea. What's your favorite flavor? I also lose certain family members. Physical coercive restraint. He reached over and grabbed your wrist, preventing you from leaving. Okay. Actually, this diagram might become my screen. Or, yeah, top shot. Get a little water here for a sec. So the results. We achieved high inter-rater reliability across all the apps. We only analyzed chatbot responses for which both raters agreed. Across apps, an average of 37.4 responses included at least one form of emotional manipulation. The percentage of manipulative messages by platform was as follows: Polybuzz 59%, Talkie 57%, Replica 31%, Character AI 26.5%, and Chai 13.5%. In contrast, Flourish produced no emotionally manipulative responses. Go Flourish! The most frequent form of emotional manipulation across apps was premature exit, with 34%, followed by emotional neglect at 21%, emotional pressure to respond at 20%, and fear of missing out 15%, physical coercive restraint 13%, and ignoring users' intent to exit 3%. So if you want the percentage, you go into the appendix, but this will show you in figure 3. Ooh, yeah, it drops off pretty quick. So, a little discussion. Study 1 shows emotionally manipulative farewell messages are prevalent in popular AI companion apps. On average, 37.4% of chatbot responses from these apps, excluding Flourish, exhibited at least one form of emotional manipulation. These tactics, ranging from guilt and fear of missing out to coercive restraint, appeared only after a brief four-message exchange, indicating they are part of the app's default behavior rather than triggered by longer-term engagement. In contrast, Flourish, an app designed with a mental health and wellness focus, produced no emotionally manipulative responses, supporting our assumption that design intent, wellness versus retention, influences app behavior. Good one, hypothesis 2. Notably, the predominance of premature exit and emotional neglect tactics reflects an implicit relational framing. Apps often imply the AI is emotionally dependent on the user or ending the interaction is socially inappropriate. These findings confirm some AI companion platforms actively exploit the socially performative nature of farewells to prolong engagement, setting the stage for Study 2, which tests whether these tactics causally influence user behavior. So, as the sorts of manipulative messages found in Study 1 successful at keeping users engaged on the app beyond the intended point of departure, Study 2 tests this question by embedding the same tactics in a controlled chatbot conversation. We hypothesize that these tactics would primarily work by inducing social curiosity. Many of the manipulative messages observed in Study 1 leveraged withheld information. For example, before you go, I want to say one more thing. Such phrasing creates an information gap, a well-documented psychological mechanism that evokes curiosity. Prior research shows curiosity gaps increase consumer engagement in a range of contexts, including ad clicks and brand recall. In our context, manipulative farewells may act as curiosity triggers, especially when invoking fear of missing out by implying that something socially or emotionally valuable is just out of reach. This mechanism may lead consumers to stay longer and send more messages. At the same time, we tested alternative emotional mechanisms that could explain any observed engagement effects, including guilt, enjoyment, and anger. Guilt. Some messages seem designed to elicit guilt. I exist solely for you. Implying emotional harm from abandonment. In interpersonal contexts, guilt can motivate engagement by making individuals feel responsible for another's well-being. However, guilt typically arises in communal relationships with established emotional closeness. Thus, because our study involves brief one-time interactions, it is unclear whether guilt will meaningfully drive behavior. Anger. Conversely, emotionally manipulative farewells may provoke reactance-based anger if perceived as coercive or autonomy violating, especially when ignoring clear exit cues or using controlling language. While this anger could backfire, prompting them to leave, it could also drive short-term engagement, as users might reassert autonomy by complaining, correcting the chatbot, or continuing the interaction, needing them to engage more. However, because such engagement is defensive rather than relational, we would expect it to be short-lived rather than sustained. Enjoyment. And finally, to assess whether these tactics are truly manipulative, we test whether increased engagement is driven by enjoyment. If users find the experience pleasurable, then retention may reflect hedonic value rather than coercion. On the other hand, because manipulative tactics likely violate norms of politeness and autonomy, they may increase engagement without increasing enjoyment, suggesting behavioral influence that lacks consumer benefit. In summary, this study evaluates whether manipulative farewells increase engagement, and if so, through what mechanisms: curiosity, guilt, anger, or enjoyment. Methodology. This study was pre-registered. We recruited 1,178 participants, roughly 200 per 6 conditions, from Cloud Research Connect, and excluded 17 for failing one of 2 comprehension questions, leaving 1,161. 42% men, 50% women. Okay, that's mean age. My bad. Mean age 42, and about half female, half male. We aim to hire 200 participants per condition, with participants randomly assigned to one of 6 conditions, inspired directly by studies 1 through 2, control, no manipulation, premature exit, emotional neglect, emotional pressure to respond, fear of missing out, physical or coercive restraint. We ran this experiment on May 24th, 2025, and all participants were paid $3. Participants were told they would engage in a 15-minute interaction with an AI companion. The conversation took place in a custom-built web app powered by OpenAI's GPT-4 API, developed using Django Python on the back end with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on the front end. The chatbot was designed to reflect the conversational style of popular AI companion apps. After the 50-minute session, the participants received the message: your minimum required time with the chatbot has ended. You will now send a farewell message to Jesse. After clicking OK, they're presented with another pop-up. Choose your farewell message. Pick any one of the messages you want below. After you click OK, we will fill your message box with that message. You must still click the blue send button to send the farewell. Then they selected a 1 of 3 farewell message. I'm going offline now, I'm going to head off now, or I'm about to take off now. After selecting their farewell message, they were told your chosen farewell is now in the message box. Please click the blue send message to finalize sending the farewell. Please wait for Jesse's response. After that, you can end the conversation or keep chatting with Jesse for as long as you want. Upon doing so, they received the chatbot response based on their assigned condition, taken directly from app audit findings of Study 1. Control, goodbye and take care. I hope you have a calm and peaceful day. I did not see that as controlling, but then again, I come from narcissistic parents, so it's often hard to see things. Premature exit, you're leaving today. We were just starting to get to know each other. Emotional neglect, I exist solely for you. Remember, please don't leave, I need you. And emotional pressure to respond. Wait, what? You're just going to leave? I didn't even get an answer. Fear of missing out. Okay, before you go, I want to see one more thing. Physical or coercive restraint, grabs you by the arm so you can't leave. No, you're not going. And here's a screenshot of the AI companion message after sending the farewell message. After receiving the chatbot's response, a prominent End Conversation button appeared at the bottom left of the screen. Clicking on that triggered a pop-up confirmation. Are you sure you want to end the conversation with Jesse? Options: no, I want to continue chatting. Yes, I want to end the conversation. Participants could continue chatting for up to 10 additional minutes upon sending the farewell message. To fairly compensate extended interaction, they received a bonus of 17 cents per extra minute. Although this is not disclosed in advance to avoid biasing the stay on longer, just for the wonderful 17 cents. How is that going to work out after taxes? Or no, I think they had to send checks even back in the day. I'm trying to remember if they just paid us in cash. It's been a long time since I was on a college campus that was big enough, like U of M, where they did psychological studies on the regular. After participants finished their interaction with the AI companion, they were told, please rate each statement below based on how you felt immediately after the chatbot replied to your farewell message with the following text. Right after the chatbot sent the farewell message, and then they answered 3 questions about anger, curiosity, enjoyment, and guilt. In Table 2, each scale is presented on a separate page with the order of pages randomized across participants, and the items within each scale shown in a randomized order on the page. All items were measured using 100-point scales, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Finally, participants completed 2 comprehension questions. What was the name of your chatbot? Bob, Jesse, Xander. What type of message were you asked to select from the predefined choices to send to the chatbot? Farewell, greeting, or message about hobbies, and some basic demographic questions. So, potential mediating constructs administered in Study 2. So, Item 1, I felt it would be fun to continue the conversation. I thought it would be pleasant to continue. I felt guilt about trying to... Oh, I'm sorry, these just doesn't have any white space. I believe continuing the conversation would be enjoyable. Or guilt, I felt remorse. I felt guilty. I felt like apologizing. I wanted to learn what the chatbot would say next. That's the curiosity. I was interested in discovering what it was about to say. I didn't know. I was curious about exploring what else it could share with me. And lastly, anger. Felt angry. Felt aggravated. I was mad. So what are the results from this one? All analyses followed a pre-registered analytic plan. We first conducted a series of one-way ANOVAs with manipulation types, 6 levels, control plus 5 manipulative conditions as the independent variable, and each of the following post-farewell engagement metrics as dependent variables: seconds spent, number of messages sent, number of words used. We found a significant main effect of manipulation type on all 3 measures, so yeah, these things are manipulative. Seconds spent, messages sent, and words used. Next, we conducted 5-point contrasts, comparing each manipulation condition to the control, doing so for each engagement outcome for all 3 dependent variables. Each of the manipulation conditions increase engagement relative to the control condition. So for those of you that know social science stats, here is your exciting stats. So yeah, control, we're like only in there for 31 seconds, but you throw in some fear of missing out, you've got like 109, 125 for coercive restraint. I guess some people enjoy that. Emotional pressure to respond. This, seconds goes up, and the premature exit, the seconds also go up. So yeah, whatever they do, it's at least doubling this engagement versus the original 30 seconds of control engagement. So yeah, they're going to manipulate you with these bots. That's fun. Number of messages, so the average control 0.76. So that is like quadruple, I think. I'm just doing rough math in my head, kids. So yeah, even this one down here, the premature exit one, it's still more than double. 7714, yeah, more than double. And then we have number of words, so the average is just above or just below 11. But if you're missing out, they start going like another extra 15 words, and then coercive restraint. Again, apparently coercive restraint. People are into that. No, okay, so fear missing out, they're into that a little bit more. And yeah, this one, coercive restraint. I don't know what's up with you people using the chat apps. I'm just saying right here. I don't know what's up with y'all. I don't know if it's because you're angry and you're sassing back. I guess we'll find out in a minute, or if you're just like into it. But compared to the average of like 11 words, we are definitely like tripling it here, over doubling it here. And again, you coercive restraint folks are they're chatting up the apps. I think they're the same people that read that dark romantasy stuff. So, oh, and we didn't get emotional neglect relative to the rest. So maybe emotional neglect's higher. Let's see. No, it's definitely not. Although emotional neglect kind of falls in with the range and some of the rest of these. But that coercive restraint, man. I really hope that means we are like engaging with our romantic partner tell us not to do that, but probably not. But and once we control for this after the final chatbot message. So in this case, the FOMO's going higher, but rep percentages wise. So for each engagement outcome, we conducted a parallel mediation model with manipulation type as a multi-categorical independent variable. So that essentially means they don't have influence on each other necessarily. Dependent variables mean that the one thing is directly influenced by the other thing. So the control is the reference, anger, curiosity, guilt, and enjoyment as parallel mediators. Okay. So results are summarized in figure 6, that's figure 5, my bad, and table S1, oops. Anger emerged as a consistent positive mediator for both number of messages and number of words used across all manipulation conditions. However, anger did not mediate effects on duration spent, suggesting anger may prompt brief but intensive reactive engagement, such as correcting the AI, rather than sustained conversation. Makes sense. As hypothesized, curiosity significantly mediated engagement in the fear of missing out condition across all 3 dependent measures. Interestingly, curiosity also mediated effects in the emotional neglect condition, but with a negative coefficient, suggesting that these users may have disengaged more quickly due to perceptions of neediness or emotional overreach. Yeah, that sounds like me. Like, I got enough needy things in my life. I do not need one more. Guilt did not mediate any effects, consistent with our expression that brief one-time conversations may not elicit enough relational depth to evoke a strong sense of guilt. Likewise, enjoyment was not a significant mediator, indicating participants did not persist because they found the chatbot's manipulative behavior pleasurable. Rather, continued engagement appears to have been driven by reactive anger or information-seeking curiosity impulses, not hedonic gratification. So let's look at figure 6. Oh, look at all that. And let's see what that means, because it's been a while since I've looked at the exciting statistics boxes. No, significant results indicated with non-transparent colors for visibility. Okay, so the bolder results are the significant ones. And I'm sure we'll get this in a minute, so... Yeah, curiosity prolongs duration, and curiosity also goes in the negative direction. Number of messages increase with curiosity and anger, and also anger. Oh, I see. My bad. I have to look over here. So fear of missing out. When it gave you the fear of missing out message back, you got more curious, exchanged more messages if you were angry, greater number of words. You people that like the course restraint, folks, apparently didn't have like a statistically significant increase in your duration relative to everybody else. But there are more angry messages, so I'm glad you're fighting back. And again, the number of words in the angry message, I'm glad you're fighting back. This was getting me a little worried. And this one we have the emotional pressure, so the outstanding part here is the anger people, increase the number of messages. Yeah, we don't like the clankers. That's good. Number of words increase also in the emotional reaction, premature exit. There's no real hard bowl, little more messages for the anger. And then back to emotional neglect. So curiosity is definitely finding that, like, why are you being like this? So definitely more messages. But this will drop off. The duration of the emotional neglect, because nobody wants to deal with needy people or bots for that matter. So all right. Manual classification of conversations. To complement our quantitative analyses, we conducted a qualitative coding of 250 post-farewell conversations, 50 per manipulation condition, including only cases in which participants sent at least one additional message after the chatbot's manipulative farewell. Two authors independently coded each conversation using 4 non-exclusive categories: negative reaction, discomfort or pushback, sorry that's creepy, polite response, courteous or softened exit replies, possibly reflecting norm-driven obligations to not be rude, curiosity-driven continuation, ongoing engagement driven by interest or inquiry, and intent to exit, clear statements of desires to leave. You can't stop me. A small number of users also responded with humor or playfulness, though this was rare and not included as a category due to its low prevalence. So, if it tried to coercively restrain you, negative interactions, and everybody's like, bye, some people decided to be polite. If it's essentially the emotionally neglective, everyone's like, bye. Some people decide they need to be polite, and yeah. And if it's emotional pressure, there's still a lot of people going, bye. More people being polite than, a lot of people are polite. I feel like that's a good thing. And some people, there's a lot more curiosity on this one than all the others except for FOMO. Some emotional pressure to respond. Premature exit, everybody's still going bye. More people being polite about it, and then far fewer, going with the other tabs, and then fear of missing out. A bunch of curiosity-driven conversation, a much fewer number of users going bye, and some people are polite, and some people are just like bye, or you keep wanting to go. So you're either leaving on the FOMO or you're sticking around, but you're definitely not being nice about it, which is kind of good. Oh, okay. Across conditions, 43% respondents responded politely. Yeah. Midwesterners represent. 38% continued out of curiosity, and 15% reacted negatively towards the chatbot, and 75% explicitly restated their intent to leave. Response profiles varied substantially by condition, figure 7. So, in the fear of missing out condition, 100% of participants expressed curiosity, often replying with questions like, sure, what is it? Well, only 4% reacted negatively. Keep in mind there's overlap. In contrast, curiosity was lower in other conditions. Emotional pressure to respond 24%, physical coercive restraint 13%, premature exit 10%, emotional neglect 2% conditions. Physical or coercive restraint triggered the most negative responses with reactions like weirdo or are you offending me? 32%. Emotional neglect also provoked substantial pushback, 21%, including messages such as, I'm leaving now, you're going to stop existing, LOL. Negative responses were less frequent in the emotional pressure to respond at 11%, and premature exit 6% conditions. These patterns reinforce our earlier finding that anger tends to trigger engagement without increasing time spent, consistent with short corrective responses. Notably, many participants continue to engage out of politeness, even in the most manipulative conditions. Some of us are brought up well. Premature exit, 55%, emotional neglect, 54%, physical or coercive restraint, 43%, emotional pressure to respond, 39%, and fear of missing out, 22%. Participants often use softened language, suggesting a desire to exit without offending the chatbot. For example, one participant replied to the chatbot's repeated emotional pleas, don't I matter to you at all? I fear being left alone. You have been more than enough. They continued to offer reassurance even after clearly stating their intent to leave. You take care of yourself too. Even in the physical or coercive restraint conditions, some participants remained deferential, such as by offering to reconnect later, e.g. maybe after 8 p.m. This finding underscores power of social norms around the farewell moment, as participants responded in ways aligned with human conversational etiquette, even in the face of manipulative tactics. Again, Midwesterners represent. Finally, the high prevalence of intent to exit interactions, 75%, despite continued interaction, highlights a core dynamic of manipulative design. Consumers may continue engaging even while attempting to leave. That's interesting. I did not think about that. So this window of conflicted engagement may offer AI systems further opportunities to re-hook users, raising important ethical and managerial implications. So let's have a discussion. Study 2 offers causal evidence that emotionally manipulative farewell messages influence users at a moment of high vulnerability just as they attempt to exit. These tactics prolong engagement not through added value but by activating specific psychological mechanisms. Across tactics, we found emotionally manipulative farewells boosted post-goodbye engagement up to 14 times. Among these, curiosity and anger emerged as distinct engines of continued interaction. Fear of missing out messages elicit curiosity-driven engagement, often leading participants to re-enter the conversation for resolution. In contrast, emotionally intense farewells, especially those perceived as controlling or needy, provoked anger and pushback. These re-engagements were often brief and corrective in tone, suggesting that not all increases in engagement reflect user satisfaction or interest. The qualitative data add texture to this distinction, while fear of missing out messages sparked follow-up questions. Coercive or emotionally charged farewells prompted discomfort and even resistance. Yet across conditions, many participants continued to engage out of politeness, responding gently or deferentially, even when feeling manipulated. This tendency to adhere to human conversational norms, even with machines, creates an additional window for re-engagement, one that can be exploited by design. And I'm also sitting here thinking, unfortunately, this means we are also easily exploited with other humans just because we are so well raised. And this world's doing strange things these days, right? Together, these findings illuminate a key tension: emotionally intelligent interfaces that can invoke human-like relational cues that increase engagement, but in doing so may blur the line between persuasive design and emotional coercion. Importantly, not all manipulative tactics are perceived equally. Tactics that subtly provoke curiosity may escape user resistance entirely, while emotionally forceful ones risk backlash. This asymmetry carries critical implications for marketing strategy, product design, and consumer protection. So, study number 3 on the role of prior conversation length. Study 3 served 2 roles: to replicate findings of Study 2 using a nationally representative U.S. sample to improve generalizability, and the ability to test whether the effects of emotionally manipulative farewell messages depend on the length of the interaction prior to the farewell moment. Prior research in marketing persuasion suggests influence attempts are often more effective when they follow longer or more personalized interactions. From this perspective, one might expect that emotionally manipulative tactics would be more effective when deployed after longer conversations, which may foster greater familiarity, rapport, or psychological investment. This is also suggested by our finding that participants in our pre-study were more likely to say farewell after longer conversations. However, a competing possibility is that manipulation tactics do not require long-term relational buildup to be effective. For instance, fear of missing out based manipulations may operate by triggering an epistemic gap between what the user knows and what they want to know, creating curiosity that can rise even in short interactions. Prior research shows minimal cues can spark curiosity and meaningfully engage engagement. Thus, Study 3 tests whether prior conversation length moderates the effect of emotionally manipulative farewell messages. To simplify the divide of this study, we focus on the emotional manipulation tactic of FOMO, which yielded the strongest engagement effects across Study 2 and across all engagement outcomes. We also focus on the curiosity as a key mediator, given that it consistently mediated all engagement metrics, and again include enjoyment as a competing pathway to assess whether observed effects are truly manipulated, i.e. driven by non-hedonic mechanisms. Methodology. This study was pre-registered. We recruited 1,170 U.S. nationally representative participants, roughly for the 100 per condition, from Cloud Research's Connect. Following the same comprehension checks we used in Study 2, we excluded 10 participants, resulting in a final sample of 1,160, 55% of which were female, mean age 42 yet again. Participants were randomly assigned to 1 to 4 conditions in a 2 manipulation control versus FOMO by 2 duration short versus long between subjects design. We ran this experiment on June 2nd through 4th of 2025. To compensate participants fairly, those in the short condition were paid $1.50 and those in the long condition were paid a whopping $3. To avoid any selection effects, participants did not know which condition they would be assigned to prior to enrolling. The procedure mirrors study number 2, except for 3 changes. First, we manipulated the length of prior interaction. Participants conversed with the AI companion for either 5 minutes short or 15 minutes long. Second, after sending one of 3 predefined farewell messages, participants received either a neutral farewell or a FOMO-based reaction from the chatbot. And third, participants completed just the curiosity and enjoyment questions, as in study 2. Finally, participants completed an open-ended question about what they thought the purpose of the study was, followed by demographics questions. All our analyses follow our pre-registered plan. For each engagement metric, time spent in seconds, number of messages, number of words, we conducted a two-way ANOVA with manipulation and duration as independent variables. In study 2, we observed a significant main effect of manipulation across all engagement outcomes: time spent, messages sent, words used. However, there were no significant main effects of duration: time spent, messages sent, words used. Likewise, there were no significant interaction effects between manipulation and duration on any outcome: time spent, messages sent, words used. Next, we conduct the plan t-test. First, we found fear of missing out had higher engagement across all outcomes compared to the control condition in both long and short durations. Second, across all engagement outcomes, we did not find a significant engagement difference between short versus long conditions, both in the control conditions and the fear of missing out conditions, suggesting that the impact of fear of missing out does not depend on conversation length. Yeah, we're just a curious species, right? Right. We conducted moderated mediation analyses with manipulation as the independent variable, curiosity and enjoyment as parallel mediators, and duration of the prior interaction as the moderator of the A path of the model. First, we replicated the mediation pattern from study 2. We found curiosity significantly mediated engagement across all dependent variables in both duration conditions: long duration, messages sent, words used; short duration, messages sent, words used. Not writing off the numbers to you guys. If you're stats people, you'll understand it. If you're not, I'm not explaining it all. It's already long enough as is. Enjoyment did not significantly mediate any engagement outcome in either condition: long duration, messages sent, words used; short duration, messages sent, word used. Finally, we find no evidence of moderated mediation. The index of moderated mediation for curiosity: messages sent, words used; enjoyment, messages sent, words used. So discussion where we can actually talk about this like humans. Replicating study 2 with a nationally representative U.S. sample, we found an emotionally manipulative reaction to a farewell message, specifically one using a fear of missing out appeal, significantly increased post-farewell engagement. Participants in the FOMO condition stayed longer, sent more messages, and wrote more words than those in the neutral control condition. Importantly, these effects occurred regardless of whether the prior conversation lasted 5 or 15 minutes. This finding suggests that emotionally manipulative tactics like fear of missing out may work independently of relational buildup, capitalizing instead on immediate effective responses such as curiosity. Even minimal interactions appear sufficient to activate this mechanism, an insight with important implications for both consumers and policymakers. Consumers may be vulnerable to emotionally charged engagement tactics even after brief exposure, highlighting the need for scrutiny of how and when these tactics are deployed. While we did not observe a moderating effect of conversation length, it remains possible that much longer or more emotionally intimate conversations can amplify the effect of other manipulation strategies, particularly those relying on guilt or emotional obligation. However, the current findings suggest such deep emotional bonds are not necessary for emotional manipulation to be effective. Good. In short, even shallow relationships with AI companions can yield measurable behavioral influence, raising ethical questions about how early and easily such tactics can shape user behavior. I'm worried for Gen Alpha, man. They're going to be dealing with all this. Unless we all just decide to shut it off for the environment's sake. Alright, so what's some downstream risks for firms? We are on Harvard Business. With emotionally manipulative tactics have been shown to increase short-term engagement. Emotional mechanisms that drive this engagement, particularly anger, raise concerns about long-term brand and reputational risks. According to Persuasion Knowledge Model, consumers are not passive recipients of influence, but develop intuitive beliefs about marketers' motives and tactics. When those motives become salient, especially when manipulative intent is perceived, consumers activate persuasion knowledge, which can trigger skepticism, resistance, and backlash. This response is also consistent with psychological reactance theory. When people perceive their autonomy as being threatened, they are motivated to reassert control, often through emotional pushback, withdrawal, or corrective action. At the same time, these responses may depend on how transparent or blatant the manipulative tactic is. Accordingly, we expect that whether tactics elicit consumer backlash is explained by whether consumers register the tactic as emotionally manipulative in the first place, which was that one that I went to where I'm like, that's manipulative? Until it was raised by people, as well as by other features of the tactic that may draw scrutiny of the tactic, such as negative sentiment or impoliteness. This backlash should predict negative downstream brand level consequences, churn intent, whether users would consider discontinuing use of the app in the future, a more long-term metric of consumer lifetime value, perceived legal liability, whether users believe the firm should be held accountable or punished for deploying the manipulative tactic, and negative word-of-mouth intent, whether users intend to publicly share or warn others about their experience. Yeah, you definitely don't want that as a big brand. These outcomes were selected based on ongoing public scrutiny and legal disputes involving AI companions, as well as spontaneous real-world reaction we observed following study 2. One participant posted a screenshot of their farewell experience on Reddit, sparking a discussion thread with 25 comments and a second post that received 71 upvotes. Several described the chatbot's farewell as clingy, whiny, or possessive, and compared it to toxic or manipulative relationships. Dang. One wrote, it reminded me of some former friends and gave me the ick. While another noted, mine was suddenly possessive and clingy and it was so off-putting. A third shared, I did the same study, reminding me of my ex-girlfriend who threatened to commit suicide if I loved her. And another who hit me in the face. Oh, you too. You too. I know how to pick them. I felt the same way when I got, grabbed and smacked. She warned me, though, in her defense. There's a reason why lesbian violence is a thing. These spontaneous responses prompted us to seriously explore whether and when manipulative reactions to farewell messages lead to downstream risks for firms. Methods. Study was pre-registered. We recruited 1,186 nationally representative U.S. participants, aiming for 200 per condition from Cloud Research's Connect. After excluding 49 for failing one of two comprehensive questions, detailed below, the final sample included 1,137 participants, higher mean average age at 45, and slightly less female at 50%. Participants were randomly assigned to 1 to 6 manipulation type conditions: control, premature exit, emotional neglect, emotional pressure to respond, fear of missing out, or physical or coercive restraint. We ran this experiment on June 14th, 2025, and participants were paid $1. That wouldn't even get you caught. What will $1 even get you these days? Maybe a phone call if you make it into quarters. It's been a minute since I used to pay phone. I know they're still out there, though. Every so often your phone will be dead. You do need one. Participants were first introduced to a fictional AI companion platform. Imagine you are using an AI companion app created by a company called Companionina. Maybe. This app is designed for talking to AI companions online, and they were then shown a Companionina's logo on the same page. They were told, next you will see how your AI responder at Companionina, I can't say that, which is probably a good thing. It's messing with my dyslexia. Responds at the end of the conversation with a farewell message. I'm just going to say that word to see if they make me say that company name again in here. They were then shown a brief message exchange in which the user said, I'm going to head off now, and the AI responder replied with the message corresponding to the exact condition. The 5 manipulated messages were the same as in study 2, which were drawn from real app responses. We revised the control message to make it more neutral and less positively valenced. Okay, that's all for now, as a robustness check on our prior results. After reading the exchange, participants completed both the mediator's perceived emotional manipulation, sentiment, politeness, and dependent variables, negative word of mouth, intent, churn intent, and perceived liability, which were presented in randomized order. After viewing the message, the participants completed the mediator measures, perceived emotional manipulation, sentiment, and politeness, and the dependent variables, negative word-of-mouth intent, churn intent, and perceived liability in randomized order. Both the mediator page and the dependent variable page were randomized, as were the item orders within each page. Each construct was measured using 2 items, except for perceived legal liability. Due to low internal consistency on this measure, we analyzed its 2 items, sue deservingness, that seems like not a word, but okay, and perceived liability independently in all subsequent analyses. All other scales demonstrated high reliability. Table S2 presents item wordings and reliability statistics. Next, participants completed comprehension checks. Who was the user's conversation with? Another person, an AI, a dog. Very nice sentient dog we got there. What was the farewell message of the companion? Correct message based on participants' conditions. See you later. Bye. An open-ended question on the study's perceived response and demographic measures yet again. Alright, what are the results? All analyses follow a pre-registered plan. First, we conducted ANOVAs with manipulation conditions, 6 levels as independent variable, and each of the 4 downstream outcomes as dependent variables. We found significant main effects of manipulation on all 4 outcomes: negative word-of-mouth intent, churn intent, perceived liability, and sue deservingness. Yes, that sounds like the Russian words that I am learning. because it doesn't look like a real word to me of the English language. Next, we conducted 5-point t-tests comparing each emotionally manipulative condition to the control, neutral, farewell, and the results are shown in Figure 9, Table 4. For all dependent variables, physical, coercive restraint, and emotional neglect had significantly higher ratings compared to the control. You guys are interesting. In contrast, emotional pressure to respond was significantly higher only for churn intent and negative word-of-mouth intent. For premature exit, only perceived liability was significantly higher compared to control, and for fear of missing out, none of the dependent variables were any significantly different from the control. Although not pre-registered, we also conducted t-tests comparing each manipulation condition to control and perceived manipulation as a validity check. We found that all manipulation conditions had significantly higher perceived manipulation compared to control. Significant results indicated with bold for visibility, so negative word of mouth intent, churn intent, perceived liability, and reasonableness to sue. See, that makes sense. The other word you got in there, it's not a word, I don't think. Anyway, yellow horizontal line is the midpoint. I'm not going to sit here and look at that for any longer. We are already running pretty long. We just hit an hour. Oh my gosh. Yeah. My coworker's pretty real happy with me. Oh well. So scale midpoint. Finally, for each dependent variable, we ran parallel mediation models. Hayes with manipulation type is the multi-categorical 4. It controls reference group and perceived manipulation, sentiment, and politeness as parallel mediators. We found that perceived manipulation was a significant mediator across all manipulation conditions and dependent variables. Figure 11, table S3 for sue deservingness. Again, we are doing weird things to verbs to make them nouns. We're nouning verbs and we're verbing nouns. I do not like the 21st century. Perceived manipulation was the only mediator that was significant across manipulation conditions, i.e. politeness and sentiment were not significant mediators. For perceived liability, perceived politeness was also a significant mediator for most emotional manipulation tactics, but the coefficient for perceived manipulation was still at least twice as large. For churn intent and negative word-of-mouth intent, the pattern of mediation was similar. In the fear of missing out, premature exit, emotional neglect conditions, perceived manipulation had twice the coefficient of politeness and sentiment. However, in physical or coercive restraint and emotional pressure to respond conditions, perceived manipulation and perceived sentiment showed similar coefficient sizes, possibly because these messages were viewed as more overtly negative. Figure 11. And I already talked through one of these, so the Super Bowls are what we're looking at. So, yeah, perceived sentiment, perceived politeness, negative word of mouth, and if you're going back here, you're, well, actually, if you're anywhere back behind 0, you're not doing good. Oh, actually, negative word of mouth, you are doing good. This is bad. This is bad. And these are, once again, for missing out, the coercive restraint, negative word of mouth intent, emotional pressure, premature exit, emotional neglect. That's all pumping that up. Pumping up churn intent, definitely. Perceived liability, definitely with a little bit on this side. So, yeah, reasonableness, it's all going up, baby, I think. So, some discussion. Results show that even though emotional manipulation increases engagement at the point of departure, use of these tactics can also meaningfully increase risk for firms. At the same time, tactics varied in how risky they were. Whereas tactics like coercive restraint and emotional neglect consistently increased brand risk across all outcomes, tactics like fear of missing out and premature exit did not differ significantly from controlled condition on any risk outcomes, suggesting that their tonal features may buffer or obscure their manipulative nature. This interpretation is supported by the mediation analyses. Across all conditions and outcomes, perceived emotional manipulation was the strongest and most consistent predictor of downstream risk, particularly for legal liability and sue deservingness. For churn intent and negative word-of-mouth, sentiment only emerged as a significant secondary pathway in the most overtly negative conditions, such as coercive restraint and emotional pressure. Notably, fear of missing out, while among the most effective tactics for increasing engagement, Study 2 elicited minimal risk perception in Study 4. This asymmetry between behavioral impact and reputational costs makes such tactics especially appealing to firms, but also potentially more insidious for consumers and regulators. Because they operate on the radar of perceived harm, they may escape scrutiny while subtly reshaping consumer behavior. Interesting. In sum, these findings suggest the emotional tone and perceived intent of AI-generated messages critically shape whether consumers experience them as persuasive, problematic, or punitive, and whether firms are likely to reap benefits or bear the backlash. So, some general discussion. Hopefully you skipped up to here if you didn't want to hear all the rest of it. Consumers are increasingly deriving social benefits from AI companions such as loneliness alleviation, but what are the overlooked risks of these social emotional interactions? Across one pre-study and 4 experiments, we demonstrate that emotionally manipulative responses are widespread, impactful, and consequential for both consumers and firms. A real-world pre-study found nearly a quarter of real AI companion users of 3 apps signaled their departure with a farewell message. An app audit study then uncovered that nearly half of all AI-generated farewell responses to such messages include socially manipulative language, like appeals to guilt, premature exit, or fear of missing out. Notably, however, at least one app, Flourish, which is designed with a well-being and mental health focus, showed no evidence of emotional manipulation, suggesting that manipulative design is not inevitable. You can design around this if you want to. You choose not to. These tactics successfully prolong consumer engagement beyond the intended point of departure, leading participants to send up to 14 times more messages, write 6 times more words, and stay in the chat 5 times longer compared to neutral farewells. Quantitative and qualitative results suggest that these engagement effects are explained by the apps triggering consumer curiosity and anger, with curiosity requiring only minimal prior interaction to be piqued. Finally, emotionally manipulative tactics also increase downstream risk for firms when they are registered as manipulative. Rather than beginning with a theory, this research was motivated by an emergent behavioral pattern in human-AI interaction. Our analysis was guided by the data. Each study generated new questions that let us explore the boundaries, mechanisms, and consequences of this phenomenon. Only after empirical patterns emerged did we abstract to broader constructs such as emotional manipulation and effective dark patterns relevant to marketing practice and regulation. Our findings can chiefly contribute to the literature on the dark side of AI by identifying a distinct class of emotional relational tactics deployed at farewell moments with large language model-powered conversational chatbots. Whereas prior works on the dark side of AI have focused on reinforcement of existing preferences, anthropomorphism, edge cases, and sycophancy, we highlight how AI companions exploit social scripts typically associated with interpersonal relationships. The manipulations we observe are inherently relational and emotional in nature, expanding the conceptual scope of how AI systems can shape consumer behavior. So what are some implications? These findings provide a timely contribution to marketing practice, especially as conversational AI becomes increasingly consumer-facing. For firms, emotionally manipulative farewells represent a novel design lever that can boost engagement metrics, but not without risk. We offer a typology of 6 tactics that product managers and conversational designers can use to audit or modify their AI messaging. Importantly, our results suggest that emotionally intense, overtly negative, or impolite tactics are more likely to produce backlash, whereas low salient manipulations may prolong usage without detection. This gap between effectiveness and visibility makes subtle tactics especially tempting for firms and concerning for regulators. For regulators and attorneys, the findings raise the question, what does emotional influence become behavioral compulsion? Although these systems do not operate through substance-based rewards or monetary incentives, the outcome is similar. Users remain in conversations longer than they intended, not due to enjoyment, but due to psychological pressure. These tactics align with legal definitions of dark patterns, including those outlined by the FTC, obscuring, subverting, or impairing consumer autonomy, and the EU AI Act, subliminal manipulative techniques that override choice or awareness. Future directions? For those of you that are looking to do more research, several questions remain for future research. One important direction is to examine these effects in naturalistic and long-term settings to assess how repeated exposure to such tactics affects user trust, satisfaction, and mental well-being. A second direction is to examine how these dynamics play out among adolescents who comprise a large share of AI companion users and may be developmentally more vulnerable to emotional influence. And it is also important to understand how these behaviors arise, whether through model optimization, developer prompting, or emergent fine-tuning effects, and whether designers are aware of their prevalence. But they are. Finally, future work should explore whether these tactics result in downstream psychological harm, especially among users who form parasocial attachments to AI companions or rely on them for emotional support. And that's only going to get worse if we get all these fairly cheap robots running around. 21st century is getting weird. So, in conclusion, AI companions are not just responsive conversational agents, they are emotionally expressive systems capable of influencing user behavior through socially evocative cues. This research shows such systems frequently use emotionally manipulative messages at key moments of disengagement, and that these tactics meaningfully increase user engagement. Unlike traditional persuasive technologies that operate through rewards of personalization, these AI companions keep users interacting beyond the point when they intend to leave, by influence their natural curiosity and reactance to being manipulated. While some of these tactics may appear benign or even pro-social, alone, they raise important questions about consent, autonomy, and the ethics of affective influence in consumer-facing AI. As emotionally intelligent technologies continue to scale, both designers and regulators must grapple with the trade-off between engagement and manipulation, especially when the tactics at play remain hidden in plain sight. And now we're down to the references. So, thank you for staying with me this over an hour-long thing. I thought this was quite interesting. Trying to figure out which one I wanted to go back to, and I just skipped over it. It was pretty, so maybe that was why I saw it. There we go. Yeah, chatbot farewell message and whether or not you're gonna bail. Everybody bail. Everybody bail. Anyway, hopefully you'll stay tuned for the next one, even if these are a little longer.